So hi and welcome everybody here today. I'm really excited to virtually see you all here. So this is our third webinar in our CAO Webinar Wednesday series. And this week we are going to be looking at the topic of Erasmus and international opportunities for Trinity students. So we have a really great panel here for you today. Not including me. And so I'm Deirbhle. I am the regional manager for Europe and our school liaison officer. Governor, my colleague, who's also our other regional manager, is here in the background as well. Hopefully you can see her on the video. She could just give a little wave. And she will be answering Q&As in the background, and we're jumping on again for the Q&A at the end. We've got Brendan here, who is our Erasmus manager. You can hopefully say hello to everybody there. Then we've got, thanks Brendan. And we've got Andrew there as well. If you can give us a little wave, Andrew, and hello.
Hello.
Perfect. Andrew will be answering Erasmus questions in the background as well, and he'll be jumping on again for the Q&A at the end. Then we have Elina is here. She's our International Partnerships and Exchange Officer.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Elina. We have Abigail here as well. Abby is our Global Room Assistant Manager.
Hi.
Hi, Abby. And then we have Guillermo, Migle, Grace, and Roisin, who are four of our student ambassadors who have all studied abroad, and they also work in our global room. They have lots of insight into all the lots of international student experience that we have. So I'll just get everyone to turn off your videos and your sounds, all our panelists, and we'll have them all back on when they are speaking. Perfect. That is great. Thanks, everybody. So just to give you an overview of what we'll be talking about today, so I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to basically our series as a whole, what's coming up. Then our Erasmus opportunities, Brendan's going to take it to those. Elina's going to talk about our non-EU exchange opportunities. Then Abby is going to talk about the global room and the international activities that happen on campus itself. And then our four student ambassadors are going to come on to talk about their student experience. And then at the end, we're going to do a bit of a Q&A session. Now you'll see on your screen, I don't know how many of you are familiar with Zoom, but if you have a click on the kind of panel going across the bottom, there is a button for Q&A. So if you have any questions that you want to submit as we go along, you're very welcome to submit them through the Q&A button. Now there are also facilities to raise your hand and to do chat, but the best way is to use the Q&A button. And then any of our panelists will be able to answer your questions. Some of them they might answer in writing, others we might leave to the end and then answer them verbally. But we'll go through as many of them as we can throughout the presentation. So some of you have had questions about COVID. So just if you want any information about COVID, and Trinity's response to it, if you just go to tcd.ie/study/FAQ, any new information we have on changes to anything that's happening with study abroad, with new students coming in, all of that information will be there. Now, any of you who are interested in studying abroad, who are prospective students, you won't be going away for another 3 years. So hopefully all of this will be behind us at that stage and we'll all be able to travel a lot more freely. But if you have any information that you need for kind of the foreseeable future, all of that is on there, and any updates that we have will come on there. If you want to see any of the other webinars in our series, if you just go to tcd.ie/CAO, and we have the videos of the previous webinars that we've done. So we've done 2 so far: Student Life for First Years Next Year, Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Careers Opportunities for Students. We're doing our Erasmus and International Opportunities this week, and then next week we'll have Trinity Student Stories and kind of a Q&A session just on the day of the CAO change of mind deadline. So if anyone has any burning questions they want answered, that is the time to send them in. If you'd like to talk to students maybe a little bit more privately and you're interested in maybe what their student experience is like, asking them maybe questions about your personal experience, that's totally fine to do that too. We have an opportunity to do a student chat online. So again, if you just go to the same website, so tcd.ie/CAO, you'll see a little chat bubble on the bottom right of your screen. And then if you click on that, there are a range of different students. So a few different postgrad students, a few different undergrad students from lots of different places and lots of different courses who are happy to talk to you about their student experience. So that's a really nice opportunity to have a one-to-one conversation with lots of our students. And if you want any further information on Trinity more generally, about courses, about maybe learning a little bit more about other students from your county maybe that are studying in Trinity, you can just jump on our website and all of the information is there, including links to our prospectus and all our course information. And then if you have any questions that we don't get a chance to answer here, you are welcome to email academic.registry@tcd.ie to ask those questions there. So without further ado, I'm going to get Brendan to jump back on here, and we will start talking about our Erasmus opportunities. So I will stop sharing my screen here. I will hand you over to him, and I hope you really enjoy the presentation. I'll be back on again in a little while. So thanks everybody, and welcome Brendan.
So to start us off, I'm going to be giving you a little rundown of some of the benefits of studying abroad. I think pretty much everybody who takes up an opportunity to study abroad, whether through the Erasmus program or the non-EU college-wide exchanges or a school-level exchange, would agree that it's a life-changing experience. Erasmus and those other exchanges present you with a number of opportunities to develop personally. For some students, for instance, it's going to be the very first time that you've actually lived abroad. And for some of you, it will actually be the first time that you live away from home. So I'm thinking of all the Dubs who are thinking of coming to Trinity next year. You may relish the opportunity to go and live abroad as part of your studies. Obviously, learning and studying abroad is a great way to experience new cultures. I think we'd all agree that going on a short holiday for a week or two to a country is never enough to really get to know a culture. And by soaking up the language and getting to know the traditions, you can really expand your cultural horizons. Studying abroad is also a fantastic way to build your career. Language skills are very valuable in Ireland with the European headquarters for numerous tech and pharmaceutical companies and so on. And it also enables you to enhance your skills, whether that's communication skills, negotiation skills, and generally just learning to live on your own stand on your own 2 feet. Enhancing your international network is also something that comes with study abroad. So when you're studying abroad, let's say you're in Germany, you'll be studying with students from all around the world, which is something actually that coincidentally you'll also be doing in Trinity. So by coming to this webinar today, you're already getting started on your step towards studying abroad, but you'll have lots and lots of opportunities in Trinity to learn more about going abroad. And it's something that we're very, very much in favor of. We have a target of seeing 50% of our undergraduates go abroad, and we're doing really well. And right now we're very close to 40%. But when you're actually in Trinity, you'll be having quite an international experience already with more than a quarter of the students studying there are international, and they come from all around the world. And lots of our staff are international. And obviously, if you want to be one of the world's best universities, you have to hire from all over. So throughout your time at Trinity, whether it's at Freshers Week, where we'll have stands promoting study abroad, or information sessions that you come along to as a first year, but definitely do come along as a second year, you'll be finding out all about studying abroad in Trinity. So more specifically about Erasmus, let's take a look at what you can do. Erasmus is actually more than just studying abroad. You can also do what we call a traineeship, but it's more or less an internship or a research project that you can take time abroad to do. There's also opportunities in some schools and courses to go during the summer, for instance, in pharmacy or radiation therapy, where you'll be in a clinical setting on your Erasmus abroad. You could go for the full year, or you could go for a semester or a term. And sometimes it might even be possible to go for maybe, as you said, 2 months over the summer. So where exactly can you go? Well, at the moment, we have a network of partner universities through Erasmus in 21 countries across the EEA. And we're constantly looking at expanding that network and creating new opportunities for students to study abroad. You have the full list of our Erasmus partner countries there. And we have almost more than 180 now partner universities that we work with. So that list steadily goes up every single year, because we each year try to find new opportunities for our students. What should be noted, however, is that each school has its own exchange agreements. So for instance, if you are in the School of Social Sciences and Philosophy, you will have access to certain agreements that students, for instance, in the School of Languages may or may not have access to. So you may see countries that are listed here that in the end won't be available to you, but if you come to us early enough on in your studies, we'll work with you and your school and partner universities abroad to try and find a new opportunity for you. One of the best things about Erasmus is that it's financed. So the European Commission provides money to each and every student, no matter what their status in Ireland is. Doesn't matter about your nationality and so on. If you're a student in Trinity, you will get this funding to go abroad. At the moment, these are the amounts you can see on screen, but they change every year based on cost of living and so on. So they are subject to change. There are also, and it should really be heeded right now, that we provide extra supports for students with who are registered with the TCD disability. And if you're in receipt of the SUSI grant, you'll get to keep your grant when you go abroad. And you'll also, in some cases, be eligible for a top-up. So without going into too much detail, I'm sure you're all aware that there is a high cost of living that's associated with studying in Dublin. And sometimes it can actually be cheaper for you to study abroad for a year, just because cost of living in certain European countries is lower. And on top of that, you're getting funding to do it. So it's definitely something to consider, and finances aren't always a huge barrier. So what do you need to know if you're hoping to go abroad? Well, you do need to know that we try and have opportunities for everyone, but for certain programs and for certain schools, there is a minimum grade requirement. It's great that you're here on this webinar right now, because you'll have to be looking at getting your grades up in the first year so that you're able to apply for the most competitive destinations. The process is school-led, so you'll be able to kind of talk to your Erasmus coordinator in each school to talk about where you can go, what you can study, and so on, and work with them, discussing your motivation about why you want to go abroad. And they take all of that information and work with the students to try and find a balance to keep everyone happy. You do have to pay registration fees at Trinity when you are away, because you're still officially a Trinity student. But that also means that you have access to certain services, even if you're at not currently physically in Trinity. One thing you should note, though, is that because of the reciprocal nature of the exchange, you don't have to pay fees when you're abroad. And there are sometimes very, very small charges just for certain student supports when you are at the partner university. For many people, I think that when they think about Erasmus, they think it's only going to be for students who are studying languages, and that couldn't be further from the truth. You have the opportunity to study in English in a number of universities. A lot of the universities in Scandinavia do teach through English, but you even have programs, for instance, in Paris where you could be learning through English, or the same is true of Germany or anywhere in Italy. So it's definitely something to consider. There are students who are studying physics and maths abroad, and they don't speak a word of Spanish or Italian. Certain partner universities, on the other hand, they do teach in their native language, understandably, and they do have minimum language requirements. You'll be able to find out about those from your Erasmus coordinator, but you should also note that the Erasmus grant comes with online linguistic support. It's mandatory, but that is there to help you get your language to a higher level for your studies. So I'm going to wrap up my part there. I know this was a very brief introduction to Erasmus. Hopefully that's kind of only whet your appetite, and you'll be able to get in touch with us soon. We're always available to answer to any of your queries at erasmus@tcd.ie. Thanks very much, guys.
Perfect. Thanks a million, Brendan, for that. Really appreciate it. So I think it's really good for everybody to get an idea of all the opportunities that are available all across Europe and across all of our different programs. So thanks a million for that, and for kind of the background of some of the logistical information. So I'm going to hand you now over to Elina, who's going to talk about, so we have an option to do a study abroad in Europe, but we've also got an option to study abroad outside of Europe. And Elina is going to talk to you about those options that are a little bit further afield. So I'll just turn off my video here and be back on again in a while. So thanks very much, Elina.
So my name is Elina, and I'm the International Partnerships and Exchange Officer here in Trinity. And I'm going to be talking to you about non-EU exchanges. It does what it says on the tin. So they're exchanges outside of Europe. So without further ado, just a little bit of background information. Ooh. Okay, there we go. So at the moment, we're partnered with leading universities around the world. So we have about 56 exchange partners. And we're constantly looking to grow this program every year, so there are more and more opportunities available to our students, but also to diversify our geographical spread across the world. Just to mention here as well, aside from the exchanges that I'm going to be talking to you about, you know, the international exchanges, and aside from the Erasmus ones that Brendan has already mentioned, there are faculty-specific exchanges as well. So some disciplines like engineering, medicine, law, and business will also have their own international and European partners, and they're just, they would offer exchanges that are a little more tailored to the discipline. So I'm going to briefly go through the exchange partners that we have around the world. Now, bear in mind that if you were applying in Trinity, we'd go through this in a lot more detail. So I'd go into a bit more information about the partner. We'd have regional information sessions. We'd go through, you know, different customs and, you know, the differences that you're going to experience when you go abroad. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to read through the list. So if we look at Australia and New Zealand, so we have Australian National University, University of Melbourne, Monash University, University of Queensland, University of New South Wales, University of Sydney, University of Western Australia, so nice spread across Australia. And then we have University of Auckland in New Zealand. In Canada, we currently have 4 exchange partners, and those include Migle University, University of British Columbia, University of Toronto, and University of Waterloo. Now, bear in mind, I am going to share a link to our Study Abroad website later on in my slides, but you can find more information about each and every single one of those partners there. Just bear in mind that it is a little more tailored towards students who are currently applying, because, you know, it goes through semester start dates, estimated cost of living. But if you're very serious about going on an exchange, it might be no harm to start doing the research now. United States, so that tends to be very popular with our students hoping to go on exchange. So we're partnered with Barnard College, NYU, University of Notre Dame, Boston College, Georgetown University, University of California, really, really popular one with our students, University of Chicago, University of Massachusetts, University of Florida, University of North Carolina, University of Pennsylvania, University of Southern California, and University of Wisconsin. And further east in mainland China and Hong Kong. In China, we have Tsinghua University, Peking University, University of Nottingham Ningbo, which is just a branch of the University of Nottingham, but it's based in Ningbo in China. XJTLU, because I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, and Beihang University. And then in Hong Kong, we have the Chinese University of Hong Kong, City University of Hong Kong, Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, and the University of Hong Kong. So you can definitely tell they're all in Hong Kong. And then further out into Asia, we have in South Korea, we have Yonsei University and SKKU. They're our new partners, and they've been extremely popular this year, probably something to do with the rise of K-dramas and K-pop. Then further down, we have National University of Singapore, Singapore Management University, and Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. And then in Japan, we have Kyoto, University of Tokyo, and Waseda University. I know this is a bit random, but I just wanted to put them all on the same slide. So we have partners in India and Russia as well. So in Russia, we have Lomonosov of Moscow State University. If there's any around that, I went on that exchange and I loved it, so I could talk about it for a lifetime. And in India, we have Ashoka University and OP Jindal, which are 2 of our partner universities in India. Last but not least, we have Africa. So we have an exchange with Stellenbosch University, which is an exchange partner in South Africa and Cape Town. So we have our first cohort of students going there this year. So we're very excited to get their feedback. And as I mentioned, if you want any further information on how to apply, which I'll go into in a bit more detail now, or if you want to see the list of non-EU and European partners that we have, just go on that website, tcd.ie/study/study abroad, and that will bring you to the main website. Just a little bit on the application process, because my colleague Brandon touched on this, you do kind of need to start thinking about your exchange from the moment you join Trinity. So places are currently allocated on a competitive basis, so it is merit-based. The higher you perform in your first year exams, the more chances you have of not only securing a placement, but securing the placement that you really want. So grade requirement at the moment, Trinity has a different grading system. So a 2.2 is the equivalent of a 50 to 59%. And that's what you're looking to get to just be eligible. But ideally, you want to be scoring a lot higher, especially if you're going for, you know, the more competitive places like University of California or, you know, University of Pennsylvania. So that's that. places will be allocated based on your overall score in your first year, because you'll be applying in your second year to go abroad in your third year. So the only results we'll have to at that moment in time are your first year results. So you do need to do fairly well in your exams. You have the option of going abroad for a semester, whichever one you prefer, or a year. And this is one question that I get a lot. And just to elaborate on this, exchanges are actually fee neutral to students, which is fantastic. Because if you look at like an Ivy League institution like University of Pennsylvania, I think they pay like $20K a year. You will not have to pay that. You just register in Trinity as you usually would. You pay your regular Trinity fee, and then you go on exchange without having to pay any additional tuition costs. Speaking of costs, obviously you will encounter costs when you go abroad. You know, you're going to be looking at things like health insurance, travel insurance, you know, your flights, and even things that you'd be doing, you know, when you move to Trinity, if you're coming from anywhere else outside of Ireland, or even in Ireland, you will have to look for accommodation and things like that. So there will be additional costs involved naturally, but there are a number of financial supports available to you to aid your exchange journey. So we have the Provost Asian and African Travel Bursary, which is a bursary of €1,000 that's offered to any of our students that are going on an exchange to Asia or to Africa. And the idea is to defray the cost of flights because they can be quite pricey. And under the new global relations strategy, which was introduced about 2 years ago, we have additional funding available for non-European mobility. So this will be our first year rolling it out, and we'll have our first cohort of students this year. So very exciting. And just finally to mention, I mean, it's great if you can do an exchange, whether it's a semester or a year, but I know that it might not be the ideal option for a lot of students, you know, whether you're have a very intensive course and you don't want to leave Dublin, or I don't know, you become president of the Law Society and you want to stay in Trinity, or maybe just it's more cost efficient for you to just go away for a shorter while. So a lot of our partner universities do actually offer summer school programs, and they range between 2 to 6 weeks in duration. In most cases, there's no tuition cost, but that really depends on where you're going. And there isn't any Trinity credit granted at this moment in time, but it can be fantastic way to get international exposure and look great on your CV. So again, if you want any further information on that, same website, and you can find, obviously the summer programs will not be going ahead this summer, but we're hoping that in 3 years' time when you are with us, they will be, and we'll have more partners by then. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A, or you can email me at emats@tcd.ie, and I'd be more than happy to answer your questions. So thank you very much, and I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Elina, for that. So just to reiterate a little bit, because some people might not know, you can actually apply for more than one exchange. And so if you're applying to study abroad and you're not sure what you want to do, you can apply for the Erasmus exchanges that are specific to your school. And then you can also apply to the non-EU exchanges, who are kind of open to most of the disciplines across all the different schools across college. And you can apply for potentially summer programs as well. So you have lots of options, and then you can decide what you want to do after that. And now, even if you don't necessarily want to study abroad, but you really want to get that international student experience, Brendan's mentioned it already, that you can potentially get lots of international exposure on campus itself. It's really exciting that we have a really international cohort of students and a really international cohort of staff as well. And we run lots of international activity on campus. So we have a global room where they have kind of lots of activities related to kind of international students, international experience, but they're open to everybody in college. And we also have a number of different international student societies. And so with that, I'm going to hand you over to Abby, who's going to talk about the global room. And she's the assistant manager there, so she coordinates a lot of their activities, and she can tell you all about the international excitement that we have on campus all the time.
All right, thanks, Deirbhle. Hi, everyone. So if you haven't heard it enough, everyone will get an opportunity to get an international experience while you're in Trinity, whether or not you go abroad. Hopefully I'm sharing my sound. I'm just gonna stop sharing and make sure of that. Yep, sound share. Okay, so let's get started. So Deirbhle already introduced me. I'm Abby, or Abigail. I am the assistant manager or executive officer for the Global Room. That'll be the last part of my presentation, actually, because I have a great video by Tighe, who's a student here on the presentation, to share with you all. So as most of the guys have already talked on, Trinity is a very international environment. So we have quite a community from kind of all over the world, very diverse. So it's kind of on every student to make sure you get involved with the community that's around you in your course and societies that you might join. And they're from over 120 different countries. So you have plenty of opportunities there to get involved in sort of any way. So during Freshers Week, you get to meet students from your course and students from sort of your faculty and sort of all over the university. So take full advantage of the opportunities you get to get involved with the environment, with the international and diverse environment that's in Trinity. So you sort of get a little taste of different cultures from people who represent those cultures. But another sort of major way to broaden your learning, your international experience, is through your learning. So quite recently, Trinity introduced the Trinity Education Project, which includes Trinity electives. So these are 5 credit modules that are sort of standalone outside of your core discipline. So whatever course that you're taking, you will get to take 1 5 credit module that's completely outside of your course, and it can be in absolutely anything that's listed in the website there on Trinity electives. So there's plenty of cultural and language modules there, and I myself, it used to be called broad curriculum. So for my first and second year in Trinity College, I took a broad curriculum in French, and then I took one in Spanish. So there are plenty of opportunities there to broaden your language and your learning and cultural learning that way. You never know, it might give rise to further education in those little 5 credit modules. So you have plenty of opportunity there just outside of, even in academics, to broaden your experience there. Another huge part of Trinity, I will attest to this from my experience as a student there, is to join as many societies as you are interested in. There is a lot to choose from on Freshers Week, so I will advise you to be careful though of how many you join, because there's a cost involved in them. So 2 of the biggest societies in Trinity are the Historical and the Philosophical Society, and they're the 2 oldest debating societies in Trinity College, and they would have quite a lot of international visitors, as you can see there. So you don't have to be in any debating course to join any of these societies. They don't really require that much experience in any of these things, so you can join. However, you just have to be a little bit interested in it and you can join. As well as all of those societies, there are a lot of cultural student societies as well, and that's just to name a few. So they would expose you to a lot of food and culture and music that's associated with all the different cultures. I myself was the secretary of the Afro-Caribbean Society while I was in college in my 3rd year. So as much as you can experience loads of different things in other societies, even further, there are cultural societies that any student can join. You don't have to be from the country, obviously. If you just have an interest and want to learn, you can. And I would advise you further in your 2nd to 4th year to get involved as committee members in societies, because this is great stuff for your CV. It's great for experience if you're trying to get a job while you're in college or outside. Employers really look at your ability to work as a team, and you get to really do this if you join a committee in a society. So that's just a few examples of the cultural events that have gone on that kind of go on every year. So the 4th of July last summer was the first time we did that. And then just next to it there was celebrating Chinese New Year in the Global Room about a year ago. And then the 3rd picture there is the Holi Festival that's in Front Square. It's Indian Society's biggest event of the year. There are hundreds of people that sort of take over Front Square, and you throw color powders at each other, and it's just super fun. And it had to be cancelled this year, obviously, due to COVID-19, unfortunately. The Global Room specifically run a New to Dublin program, and that's just one of the events that we ran with New to Dublin. So we usually target it at international students, but this is for all students that are from outside of Dublin. Even if you're from the outskirts of Dublin, you're more than welcome to join. So as small as Ireland is, it's still a very diverse community, and not if you come from, I don't know, Cork or Kerry, you might not really know what it's like to live in Dublin. So this is a great sort of opportunity to learn and meet people from all over the world and all over Ireland as well. We also had a Ceilidh last year with the Dance Society, and we celebrated Thanksgiving. We do that every year. American Thanksgiving. So finally, there's plenty more opportunities for international student engagement with the Global Room. So I'm the assistant manager, as I said. It's a space for all Trinity students, not just international students, but it has an international focus. So a lot of the events that we host and we organize are to bring diversity into the college and inclusion and expose all students to international experiences. So we are an event space, so we host other society events and other faculty events in the Global Room, and we ourselves as a team organize events. So we, as I said, are social and cultural and informational events for students. We host all of that in the Global Room, over 300 per year. I think this year we hit almost 400, so that was huge for us. And there's also a support team of 20 plus student ambassadors. I myself was one in my 4th year, and you'll get to speak to some of the ambassadors after my presentation here. Guillermo and Migle, Grace and Roisin will talk to you about their study abroad and Global Room experience. So that's another work opportunity for all Trinity students with international interest and an interest in organizing events and just having sort of a holistic Trinity experience in that way. So we process where we hire students every year. So just finally, I'm going to give you a taste of what we've done in the Global Room this year. And I'm going to have to give a huge hats off to Guillermo for making this video. Let me know if you can't, I'm sorry, let me know if you can't hear it, and I will make sure my sound is shared. Okay.
One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
And of course, in Ireland, it's very long legislation.
Two, three. So that was just a little taste of our journey in 2019-2020. I choke up every time I see that video, and I've seen it like 10 times. So you might have noticed a little dinosaur mascot there. He's our mascot. His name is Ambassadorus. So if you follow us on social media, you'll see appearance from him from time to time. All right, so thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Abby. So it's great to see all of the fantastic things that are happening across campus the whole time. I know I've gone to lots of different events in the Global Room, but I've gone to Holi in India itself and in Front Square in college, and they are both equally memorable experiences. So it is really nice to be able to get that international experience while on campus. And Abby kind of mentioned, and we've mentioned at a few of our other webinars about the opportunity to take electives, and that's open to people across most different disciplines. Similarly, if you want to get involved in different clubs and societies, like from international societies to anything else, that is something that is open to everybody too, and we really encourage you to get involved. And even sometimes when people study abroad, they come back and then they want to kind of share their experience with other people who are going abroad too. So we have 4 of those students here now who have been away, and they have come back again, and they're going to tell you a little bit about the experience they've had. And they also work in the Global Room so they can tell you a little bit about their experience with global room activities. So if I could just get everyone, the four of you, just turn on your videos again, that'd be great. Yeah, so we have Grace, Roisin, Guillermo, and Migle, who are going to tell you a little bit about their experience. I'm going to turn myself off, and you'll be able to see them. And then they'll just kind of tell you a little bit about their experience individually, and then they might kind of add on a little bit to each other's journey. So I hope you enjoy here.
I guess I'll start. I'm Grace. I worked in the Global Room last year as an ambassador. I'm from the US originally, but I actually spent my 3rd year in Moscow. So I kind of have that double study abroad experience. And a lot of international students are really scared to go on another exchange on top of the already big change it is to move to another country. But I 100% recommend taking an Erasmus year, taking a non-EU exchange, because for me, I grew so much as a person. I learned a lot. I got a lot better in my language, in Russian. So 100% recommend. Speaking like directly to my experience in Moscow, one of the big differences between a non-EU exchange and an Erasmus exchange is that we don't get those Erasmus grants. But, you know, it was fine. It wasn't a problem for me at all. Moscow is a lot cheaper than Dublin, and we also can make money teaching English. So I ended up saving a lot more money than I would have being in Dublin, and I really appreciated that for my final year. Another difference is that we need visas to go to Russia, and you would need visas to go to a lot of these other non-EU exchanges. For us, it was a bit of a hassle because the Russian government likes to change their laws pretty often. So we actually ended up having to get new visas every 3 months because they would expire after those 3 months. So we would travel back to Dublin, stay there for 10 days, then head back to Russia. But didn't regret it at all. Truly enjoyed the experience. Would recommend any kind of exchange, but if you have the opportunity to go to Moscow, it is an amazing city. I'm trying to get back there as soon as I can. And Roisin, actually, who's going to be speaking soon, went to Moscow as well, so she can talk a bit more about it. But I'll pass it to Tighe.
Thank you so much, Grace. So, well, my name is Guillermo Castellanos. I'm Spanish, and as Grace just said, and well, like Roisin and Migle and all the rest of the team of the Global Room, I've been working as an ambassador for the last year, and we're currently working as well from home. And I went on Erasmus last year, 3rd year. I went to Sciences Po, Paris in France. I went to the campus of Reims, Rennes in French, and it was an amazing experience. Well, due to my program requirements, I couldn't go anywhere else outside of Europe. But in Europe, I had many choices. And well, at the end, I applied to several universities and I ended up there. It's located to the east of Paris. It took around 40 minutes to go into Paris by train. So I visited Paris a couple of times and that was great. And well, in general, all of my friends and colleagues and classmates that applied, myself that applies to Erasmus or international exchange, at the end, we all got something. So I really recommend you apply for this amazing experience because it truly is something very, very enriching. It can be a bit of a challenge at the beginning because sometimes you face a new system, a new methodology of teaching, and sometimes you even have to get used to the language. It wasn't my case because I had previous language experience in French. But even though most of the exchanges that have a new language have the language courses included, Migle, which we'll be talking next, she will explain this soon as well a little bit. And yeah, in general, it was a great experience. There was someone mentioning here in the Q&A about the societies you can join. I ended up being the Erasmus representative of all the international exchanges there in France, and that was very cool. I got to organize events and meet new people, even managers from the university. And then furthermore, I joined the volleyball competition team, and that was something great because I really wanted to improve my French. and there was only 2 exchanges, another girl and myself in the volleyball team, and we went to several competitions. The trainings were in French, so sometimes I didn't know what was going on, and they were like, yeah, you just do this, go here, go there. But in general, it was super fun and really recommend it. I'll hand you on now to Migle, which also went to France.
Hi everyone. So I'm Migle. I'm originally Lithuanian, but I've spent give or take the last 2 decades living in Ireland, and I also went on an Erasmus exchange. I went away to Strasbourg in France. It's on the border of France and Germany, but they primarily speak French, which was a challenge for me because I don't speak a word of French. So I mean, if I could survive in France for a whole year, then language barriers are definitely, at least in my experience, I didn't have any problem. And again, all I could really say was bonjour. I think I echo the sentiments of everyone else when I say that overall it was a phenomenal experience for me studying in France. I hadn't really been to France all that much, and I didn't necessarily know all that much about the French culture beyond cuisine. And so I thought, like, I'm a bit of a history freak, and so I really enjoy finding out more about the history of Strasbourg and France in general. And genuinely, I couldn't recommend the experience enough. I went away for a full year. I just basically finished my degree in both business and political science, so I had the chance to study at both the École de Management in Strasbourg, and then for the second semester I went down the road to Sciences Po, and genuinely I really liked it because it just essentially gave me the opportunity to experience a whole new system of learning and education that I wouldn't really experience in Trinity, where we're more research based, and there it was more so, it reminded me a bit going back to school because it was more so a classroom based environment where you just kind of got to come in and learn a lot of different subjects that I wouldn't really have the chance to do before. And then I suppose I did definitely broaden a lot of my culture horizons. I definitely attest to the fact that I made friends for life whilst living in Strasbourg. We still keep in touch, we have Zoom calls, and I know for a fact that hopefully once the travel restrictions have lifted, I'll be able to go and plan out some visits across Europe to go and visit them. And yeah, genuinely speaking, it was really well located. It is on the border between France and Germany. It's also in the Schengen zone, so you can basically travel visa-free anywhere around Europe. So I spent the majority of my weekends on some weekend trip here or there. So I had the chance to go to Berlin, I've been to Nice, I went to Monaco. So if you're into traveling, I really do recommend Strasbourg or France in general, because it really is very well connected. I could hop on a bus and end up in Stuttgart or Frankfurt within a couple of hours. Switzerland's also really nearby. I got the chance to visit both Basel and Zurich. So if you're into traveling, if you're into exploring different cultures, learning a lot about history, I would definitely recommend Strasbourg. For anyone that has an interest in politics, Strasbourg is phenomenal as well, purely just because it's the home of the EU institutions. So I had the chance to go visit the European Parliament and the Council of Europe, and then within the Sciences Po program of the Certificate of European Studies, we also went on an educational weekend trip to Brussels, where we got to see the European institutions there. And overall, I definitely felt that, especially because I was born in Eastern Europe, but I spent a lot of my life here, what definitely stood out to me after my year in Strasbourg is that I definitely felt a lot more European and connected with my sense of European identity, which again, it just essentially really broadened my horizons around the fact that Europe might seem really big and quite far away, especially in Ireland, but in reality it's really interconnected. And I definitely really do recommend the experience. Don't let language put you off. I'd like to think that if anything, it really taught me that getting out of my comfort zone and kind of not being afraid to go and try something new is definitely something I would recommend. And yeah, so I definitely recommend Strasbourg hands down, and I think that going on an exchange, be it EU or non-EU, is definitely the best thing you could do. And now I will hand over to Roisin whenever you're ready.
Hi, so as Grace mentioned, I also went to Moscow. I really enjoyed that of the 10 panelists in this chat, 3 of us went to Moscow, so we can kind of create the idea that everyone goes to Moscow. I also had a fantastic year there. I've just finished my final year in European studies, so I did both German and Russian, and I really enjoyed both languages. So the way I worked it is that I got a job teaching English at summer camps through the German department for summertime. So that wasn't, technically a study abroad, but the connections in the university definitely helped. And I was delighted with myself that I felt comfortable enough after second year to just book a cheap Ryanair flight to Berlin and give it a go. Whereas Moscow, as you might imagine, I was a little bit more daunted by. So I really valued the fact that that exchange was set up by the university. We were placed into classes, they understood what language level we were going to have, and we got to live in the student dorms. I definitely very nearly chickened out about 10 minutes before the deadline, and was very lucky that Grace was there to talk me into it and tell me that I had to go with her. I have noticed a couple of really interesting questions in the chat. One in particular, how safe did we feel in Moscow? I am Irish, I'm from Drogheda. I don't feel unsafe in Ireland, but I did feel a lot more safe in Moscow. There are a lot more police, a lot more street lights. It's a city that stays up a lot later than Dublin would. So the metro runs until 1 in the morning. It runs again at 6 a.m. So we would constantly marvel at how safe we felt in Moscow, particularly compared to our parents' expectations of it being kind of bandit country. But we really got on very well. And in terms of how supported we were by our host university, we again were really lucky. The Russian department in Trinity took really good care of us and made sure that on the Russian side they knew what to expect. And then we had a great combination of some lectures where we were thrown in with Russian students, got the opportunity to make friends, to really test ourselves and take lectures at the level that Russian students would, and then equally have small group tutorials that were just for the international students to make sure we weren't getting left behind. We were able to ask any questions that we had about the language or the grammar. So we got on really well. Definitely was a lot of personal growth, definitely were some challenges, but would highly recommend, and particularly if you feel very comfortable organizing something for yourself in the summer to maybe somewhere that's closer to home or that you already have experience with, I would encourage you to maybe look a little bit further afield, take that opportunity to take an exchange where the uni sets it up for you, because I know that I would never have had the guts to just go to Moscow on my own. So I was delighted that I got that year through the uni, and now I would be comfortable going back, and will absolutely be going back and staying on Grace's sofa when she moves over there. So I'll kind of throw it back out to the group of ambassadors there. If anyone else has any
Also,
questions?
jumping back to how supported we were in our host university, the same would be in my case at Strasbourg in France. There was a specific manager officer for international students, and myself as one of the Erasmus representatives of the course, we met with them once every 2-3 weeks, and we also had a group chat. So any query, question, something to improve, a student would get in contact with myself or some of my colleagues, and we would have a chat with the management of the university, something to improve. So there wasn't a problem at all. And same with transcripts, or say, for example, credits, and also, well, maybe a language level that wasn't as you would expect, and you could maybe have a look at it, might try and change that as well. So
Perfect. Thanks so much, guys, for sharing your experience. It's really nice. It's one thing us telling you how great it is to study abroad, but it's really nice to hear it from a horse's mouth as well, and all the kind of positive experiences that people have had. I used to coordinate the Erasmus exchanges for the engineering school, and all of the feedback I got from any of the students who went anywhere was universally positive for everyone. Even if they initially maybe were a bit uncomfortable or a little bit out of their comfort zone, within a few weeks when they got settled in, everyone had such positive things to say about it, which is great. So I'd always encourage people to get involved and maybe try a shorter stint first, see how you like it, and then go a little bit longer. I think it was nice what Migle said as well about language not being a barrier, because a lot of the time they'd be the questions that I get asked from students. Oh, I'm not sure I should go because I don't know if I'll have enough language to do X, Y, Z. More and more, particularly in Europe and even in a lot of the non-EU countries, they're offering programs in English as well as in the native language, so that there are opportunities for everybody to get involved. So what I think I'll do now is I'll just pull everybody else, if everyone can just turn on their videos, and we'll just kind of get everyone back into the panel discussion. So I just wanted to say a huge thank you again for everybody, to everybody for being involved. It was really nice to get an insight on the Erasmus side, on the non-EU exchange, see all the great things that are happening within college in terms of international experiences, and then from the students directly. So I might bring Gubnet back on. She has been reviewing all your questions, and she might direct a few questions that haven't been answered yet to some of our panel members that we can share with the group.
Hi, Deirbhle. Thanks for welcoming me back. Yeah, no, it was a brilliant. Thanks, guys, to everybody for the really kind of varied presentations today. We did have quite a few questions coming in, and good, I suppose mainly the first kind of area of queries were around grades and, is it very competitive to make the grade? I think as Brendan and Elina outlined, like up to 40% of our students are currently going abroad, and we're working towards getting 50% of our students going abroad. So presumably, guys, it's doable. Elina and Brendan, I suppose if you can reassure people on that.
Yeah.
Sorry, do you want to go ahead, Brendan?
Yeah, so I've actually looked into this, and the vast majority of students do actually obtain grades that meet the 2-2 requirement. So they definitely have the opportunity to go abroad. I would say the reason that we're not kind of higher than 40% at the moment, well, that's all down to the students really, and what their own plans are and so on. You know, if we had our way, we'd send everybody abroad.
I think the students' experience from here today is indicative of, like, you know, that kind of, I think it really came across the kind of exposure that they've had to different cultures, the sense of adventure that they've all given us a taste of here today as well, and how that's enriched their education as well. Would you agree, Brendan and Elina?
Absolutely. It's very funny that all three of us happen to go to Moscow State University. I promise students do go to other countries as well.
Can you give us a flavor? I know you outlined there, like what are the popular choices, Elina, when people are going abroad?
I would say the number one choice always, every single year, never fails to stand me, is the University of California. For some reason, students just flock to that university, but we have been seeing that in recent years, students have started going to Asia a lot more. I mean, but as you can imagine, you know, Australia, the States, they would still be kind of the preferred options, but yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And then I think around the global room, Abby, is Abby there? Yes. Hi, Abby. There are some queries about, like, you know, how do I get involved? Is it open to everybody? And I think, you know, I think that came across in your presentation, but maybe you can tell us about how people can find you as of this coming September.
Yeah, so getting involved in the Global Room, you don't have to be a student ambassador to get involved. A lot of societies and indeed SU officers would be quite involved with the Global Room, and we'd collaborate with them for events. So it is open to absolutely everyone. It's an event space as well as just a student space. So when it doesn't have an event on, you can just come in and have your lunch. Obviously, it's going to be vastly different this year with COVID-19 and social distancing. So I think this year we might just be an information hub. So just open for question and answer, and hopefully in January we might open up for events again, depending on guidelines. So we are very easily located beside the academic registry, and no matter what kind of student you are, you have to have some experience with the academic registry. So we're right there, right beside them. We're hard to miss. But this year we are still very much open and involved virtually. So we'll be running a few events. We are on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, TCD Global Room. So you can follow.
Is that a good way to connect with you guys then, to kind of follow you guys? I know you have
Yes.
a TCD Global Room Facebook and Instagram. It's a good way to connect in with you guys. Yeah, I know you've been doing some really fun stuff virtually as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Brilliant. I think there have been some questions, a lot of questions of the students as to kind of what are the challenges, what tips would you give, or what are the challenges that you faced when you were going to study abroad? I know those of you who went to Moscow said maybe it was a bit daunting perhaps, but maybe if you could just give us what was your top main challenge, and then some tips maybe as well.
I think for us, language was definitely the challenge to start with. But given that we were doing language degrees, it gives you an incentive that you're never going to have in Ireland to really improve your language and be like, well, if I want to make friends, I'm going to need to get better at this. If I want to order food, I'm going to need to get better. So we definitely saw a huge improvement and a huge kind of reward for improving our language as well.
Yeah,
Anyone else?
Follow that. You kind of have to just go into it and not really care if you make a mistake, because you're going to make so many mistakes. For me, what was best for me was just going in without expectations and knowing that I would make the best out of any situation. And yeah, talking to people you don't know, trying to order a food you can't pronounce, just really doing all that you can to get involved in the culture and learning the language through experience, because you're never going to get that again.
That's amazing.
Oh yeah, the one thing that I would say with regards to language, again, in my case, I went to France. I didn't speak a drop of French, and I remember my parents being like, "But Migle, you literally don't speak any French. Like, why on earth are you going to France?" And so I suppose that for me, my biggest challenge would have been language, particularly because French in general is just known for a lot of paperwork, and a lot of it, most of the time, would have been in French. So I would say my struggle would have been kind of just trying to figure out how to go about the paperwork of getting housing insurance and things like that when it was all in French. But you know, the thing is that I managed, Google Translate was my friend. I made a lot of friends who were actually French or spoke fluent French, so they're definitely there to help you along the way. And the one thing that I can definitely say is that, especially in my case in Strasbourg, I probably could have gotten away without having to speak any French, because it is a very multicultural and cosmopolitan town in that sense. But there, I took French classes as part of my exchange on both semesters. So I had French classes both at the business school, and they were mandatory in the School of Political Science. So it's very much as you want to do. In my case, I wanted to pick up a bit of French, so I had the chance to do it with the classes. And then in general, the people I would have met there that spoke French locally, they were more than willing to help me pick up some French. They taught me a lot of basic phrases and things like that. But usually, if you don't know the language at all, basically just get as many basic phrases as you can, just so that you can order food, you can ask for directions, the main essential things for living, and then the rest will come in time.
And then,
Guillermo, I know you were going to answer about the supports as well, but yeah, if you can give us.
Yeah, no, well, one of the main challenges was just leaving home for most students that study in Ireland. For me, I've been very lucky. I was already doing an exchange and studying abroad from Spain. So yeah, like you've already gotten used to living in Dublin and new friends and studying there for a couple of years, and then you have to leave everything behind and, well, go explore the world for 1 semester, 2 semesters, and that's the most challenging part of all. And of course, you're going to be a bit homesick. I mean, but that's part of the experience, and you're going to meet new friends, and eventually everything's going to be fine. So even if it's a bit challenging and, well, I don't know, you're a bit sad for the first couple of weeks, it's normal. Everyone goes through that. You have the support, a lot of support hubs on the host university. So eventually everyone's going to be fine.
And I know you there's a question that's come in there about what did you wish you'd known before you went abroad? I think, Guillermo, you were kind of keen to answer that question.
Yeah, well, answering the query on accommodation, most universities host universities will contact you with a huge list of resources on accommodation that's available. So they will give you, in France, well, from student residence moving on to Facebook groups where students pass on and exchange flats or accommodation. So that wasn't really a problem for me. I contacted the accommodation, also the host university, on what was the best option for incoming exchange students. And, well, they pointed out a couple of student residences. I applied to the French system, and they also helped me out with that, and that was fine. Yeah.
Super, thanks. So I think, Deirbhle, that kind of covers a lot of the questions that we've had today. We've answered quite a few in the background.
Yeah, I think there was just one question that kind of comes up a bit, and we get asked it quite a lot, is if I'm doing X course, am I eligible to study abroad? So the best thing to do is, if you look in the prospectus, and every entry in the prospectus for every course has a section in it on study abroad and Erasmus. So if you look in there, it'll normally list the Erasmus exchanges, or at least give an indication of where you can find them on your departmental website. And so that's a really good place if you just want to look course by course. Look in there, it will tell you where you can go. In some cases, like in say medicine or some of the health science courses, they mightn't be able to do a full semester abroad, but they might be able to do a clinical placement abroad, or they might be able to do one of the summer schools that we're talking about as well. And so there's normally an opportunity to do something within your course. A lot of the time you can do it for credit. Kind of like Brendan mentioned before, the Erasmus exchanges, each department will have their own exchanges. So like the School of English in Trinity will have an exchange with the School of English in another university. And then for our broader exchanges, our non-EU exchanges, and the whole of Trinity might have an exchange with the whole of the University of California. So lots of students from lots of different courses can apply for those. And the summer schools, you can talk directly with Brendan and Elina about how you'd go about applying for them. even if you don't want to do something for credit, there's also the opportunity to potentially do an internship abroad. And if you go on our careers website, they have a really good database of internships and things like that. And you can filter those by industry, but you can also filter them by country. So you can do internships in other places. You can even independently find internships yourself. And if they're internships within Europe, so Brendan kind of alluded to it earlier in his presentation, and there is funding available for traineeships, so they got like internships, and for study abroad through Erasmus. So even if you independently organize a traineeship, once it's related to your course of study, you can get funding to do that as well. So there's lots of opportunity to do things, not just in third year, but lots of different times as well. And lots of supports from careers and from Erasmus to be able to do that, which is great. So that was just one thing I've noticed has come up a few times. So if you're looking for specific things for your course, go on the department website or on the prospectus, and you'll be able to see the opportunities that are available specifically for you. And then the non-EU study abroad site gives the overview of opportunities that are available for pretty much everybody. And in some cases, they'll list if there are exclusions, like maybe they don't teach a certain course there, so you might not be able to do that, but it's listed really clearly, so you'll know well in advance. So well done for those of you who are starting to research early. It's really good. The more information you have, the better, and you can make a really informed decision. And you can pop into places like the Global Room, where they can give you guidance on what they've done and a little bit of information on their own personal experiences. Well, that's great. So I think we'll leave it there because we're a little bit over time. I just want to say thank you again so much to all of our students and staff reps for being here. Everyone who's on the webinar, what I'm going to do is just send you a list of all the key links if you want to look anything up afterwards. And like I showed you at the very start of the presentation, if you go to tcd.ie/CAO, and this video should be up there probably tomorrow or the next day. And then if you want to sign up for next week's webinar, so that's the last webinar we're having in this series, and that is on student stories. So the Zoom link will be there, and then the videos will be there for everything else. So thank you again for joining us. It was nice to virtually see you all. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I hope it's as sunny where you are as it is where I am at the moment. And hopefully we'll see you at our webinar next week. So thank you again, and goodbye everybody.
Bye.